Hi, today I want to talk a little bit about BRIFFAULT'S law, something I think that every man should know about, extremely important, and much of the information you can just find on a basically one page worth of a website I'm posting. It's very informative, it's very concise, all the information is there. I'm probably just going to expand a little bit on it, and I have no illusions that I'm going to add a tremendous amount to it, but I think by posting a video that's actually talking specifically about this, it could be helpful. And as I said, all men should know about it. It's probably, when dealing with women, the single most important thing you can know as a man. So that's why I'm going to delve into this a bit. Now, as you can see on the website, Briefault was a late 19th century, early mid-20th century guy who was primarily a novelist, but as well as a surgeon, a medical doctor. But he also engaged in things like social anthropology and writing on sociology in general. And he famously said, well, famously, I don't know how famous it is, to be quite honest, but he did say that Briefault's law states quite, I'll read it out loud right off the website, the female, not the male, determines all the conditions of the animal family. Where the female can derive no benefit from association with the male, no such association takes place. And the guy who runs the blog has added some very nice corollaries, in my opinion. Corollary 1. Past benefit provided by the male does not provide for continued or future association. Corollary 2. Any agreement where the male provides a current benefit in return for a promise of future association is null and void as soon as the male has provided the benefit. See Corollary 1. 3. A promise of future benefit has limited influence on current/future association, with the influence inversely proportionate to the length of time until the benefit will be given, and directly proportionate to the degree to which the female trusts the male. And then in brackets, which is not bloody likely. This is really important. I'm going to talk a little about these corollaries the guy has come up with. Well, past benefit provided by the male does not provide for continued or future association is very important. In my previous video and a few other times, we've talked about honor being primarily the province of the male. Well, this would be a good illustration of that, in my opinion, because we as men have a concept of commitment, of debt. If someone, even if I don't like the person, if someone does something for me, I do feel in some sense obligated to discharge, at the very least discharge that debt. The female feels no such compunction. That means that even if a male has provided for her well-being for 10 years, and for whatever reasons, perhaps he falls ill, or he has an injury, or it doesn't matter what the reasons are, although certainly being ill and injury is a good reason, would be a logical reason, and sure to elicit no sympathy or empathy on the part of the female. That aside, she will not continue her association with him. Why? Because he's no longer providing the benefit. So that's I think corollary 1 probably is the most important one to stress. This idea that just because you've taken care of or you've been nice or kind to your partner or woman doesn't mean she's going to regard that as a worthwhile thing in terms of discharging debt, or in terms of paying you back, in terms of kindness or whatever. Of course, the irony is, how often do we hear, "Oh, I gave him the best years of my life." And so women do have that expectation, despite themselves not practicing it. Agreement number 2, so that's past benefit provided by the male does not provide for continued or future association. Corollary 2, any agreement where the male provides a current benefit in return for a promise of future association is null and void as soon as the male has provided the benefit, which is essentially a reinforcement of 1. He says it himself. That's right. So if you are providing a current benefit with the expectation that that you'll be treated well or get whatever it is you might desire from the one, most likely it's sex, access to the vagina in the future, because you're providing a service or a benefit now, there is no connection between the two. They don't link up, unfortunately. You need to continue providing that benefit, in theory, indefinitely, although it's another issue. And finally, 3, a promise of future benefit has limited influence on current future association, with the influence inversely proportionate to the length of time until the benefit will be given and directly proportionate to the degree to which the female trusts the male. Somewhat more complicated. So what he's saying here is that a woman who sees a potential benefit in the future will act only to a limited extent based on her own perception of how much that benefit is within reach, and how much she, quote unquote, trusts the male. So, I mean, I'm not going to give a specific temporal indication, but so let's say if a woman sees a benefit 6 months down the line, that might be a worthwhile investment of her time and energy. However, if the benefit is 6 years down the line, it might not be. Now, on the other hand, if she's looking at, say on $10 million, the famous Kobe Bryant's not really a tangent. The story, apparently, from what I heard, I'm not a huge basketball fan or sports fan in general, but is that the wife stuck around the husband on the advice of the mother, primarily for the purpose of being able to rake it in during the divorce. The mother had advised the daughter to maintain the relationship / marriage in order to garner his wealth. So that would be sort of a long-term projection of association for the sake of benefit. So that's all relative, based on the perspective of the female who's choosing to associate with the male. Briefall is right in talking about the animal family. We are animals, and we see it time and time again. Females choose the lion. Male peacocks look ridiculous and put themselves in danger in order to attract females and so on and so forth. The female chooses. There's some more very interesting information about idea that Thai women are different, and the main point of this guy's summary is that women are universal in their adherence to Briefauld's law. Where Briefauld's law does differ, it's only in the degrees, the specific degrees to which an individual woman, and women are actually individuals, I've never denied that, will display this behavior. So it's quite possible, I will concede that Briefauld's law is, I'm just going to make up some percentages, there's only 10% in effect in one woman, and then 95% in another, and 100 in another, and so on and so forth. But rest assured, and do not doubt, that a woman will only associate with a male based on the benefit she potentially sees in him. And I'll talk about those specific benefits in a bit. But he goes on to stress that all women associate with any man only so long as they derive benefit from the association. This cannot be stated too many times. And he goes on to mention some statistics in the UK regarding hypergamy. And you can read this all for yourself. I don't want to talk too much about that. Kind of funny, the guy apparently married 4 times, and he has a sense of humor. He says, marriage number 4, so I'm a slow learner. But the point he's trying to make, and I'm trying to make, is that the benefit issue is the most important thing. He also talks about things we've talked about recently. He talks about, he says, loyalty, honor, gratitude, and duty are male values that we men project on women, but which very few to no women actually possess. We differ slightly. He thinks it's drummed into us by society and culture. I think it's inherent to us and accelerated and exacerbated by society. And women, I mean, I think one of my posters, I forgot his name, and you'll forgive me. I used to read a fair bit of Schopenhauer, and Schopenhauer did, in fact, say that women are there for the species. They do not value individual lives, and so that does make sense. He also goes on to say, so do not expect that the woman in your life will be grateful and sacrifice for you when you can no longer provide for her and hers. And make no mistake, you have never been and never will be part of what is hers. What are hers will be her first herself, then her biological children, then her parents, then her siblings, and then the rest of her blood relatives. The biological imperative has always been to extend her bloodline. It stops there, and it always will. This is true everywhere in the world. Get over it. This can be saddening, and indeed it is, to me at least. But these are the facts, unfortunately. That is how the female operates. I want to talk a little about this concept of benefit, because inevitably men will get involved in relationships. Not everyone is a man going his own way, and not everyone has either temporarily, in my case, or permanently renounced the relationship as a concept. But the problem, people think benefit, they immediately think money, and certainly that would be a very tangible, very solid way of looking at the exchange of goods, right? Because a relationship, according to BRIFFAULT'S law, and you don't even need that to see that, is simply a business transaction. Most of the time, the man is paying for sex and perhaps access to reproduction in exchange for his financial resources, money, things he can buy, and level of comfort provided to the woman. But it can be a lot more subtle, and this is something that men need to be aware of. So, for example, Bob, imaginary man, is in a relationship, and the woman doesn't seem to be particularly interested in the money he may or may not have. Let's say he doesn't have a lot of money. So, she's not interested in my money. She's a good woman. There is something else going on. There might be some other benefit. Who knows? It could be really anything. He might have a huge cock. She might enjoy the sex with him. She might simply enjoy the attention. This is very common, lavished upon her by Bob. She might enjoy his servitude, his willingness to essentially get down on the knees and take it up the ass, metaphorically speaking. So there are a lot of ways to interpret benefit. Benefit need not necessarily be just money. That should be clear. And it's often, I mention this, and I want to stress this, because so many men are willing to overlook that. She's not into my money, so she's not a superficial or person or what have you. At the end of the day, she will be looking for some kind of benefit. In some ways, the financial transaction benefit is the most transparent and the easiest to deal with. If a man chooses to enter into a relationship with a woman, and it's very clear cut what's stipulated in the contract, obviously it's not officially signed, but it's a business transaction, the business contract, and the primary stipulation is one of financial services, then that's pretty cut and dry. If it's more something like some sort of vague emotional feeling that you're giving to the female, or the way she might enjoy sex with you, or maybe it's even the artwork that she enjoys that you produce. At some point in time, she won't like it anymore, so the benefit ends. Finally, in some cases, in my observation, also from my own relationships, I've never been wealthy, so that's never been the primary benefit-seeking issue in terms of the women I've dated. Not only the women just don't know specifically, but rest assured they are looking for some kind of benefit, and they will cancel the relationship as soon as they have the feeling, however vague it might be, that whatever benefit they may or may not have been cognizant of has ceased to be. Just wanted to get that out there. That's very important. So to not always assume benefit is financial. Oftentimes it is. So I'm not going to give people advice. I don't do that. Al Pacino's character, a.k.a. Satan, in Devil's Advocate, which I think is quite a good film, very well done, highly underrated, quite famously said, the worst advice is advice. But what I would suggest, what I think might be wise, is if a man chooses to enter into a relationship, or, well, let's just say relationship, marriage is, we know what marriage is about, then the man should, prior to entering the relationship, be aware of what the benefit is to the female. Once again, if it's cut and dry, if it's just an issue of finances, let's say the man has money, then it's pretty clear what the female is looking for. And consequently, as long as he can provide for her financially, he'll have most likely continued access to her vagina or whatever else she might seek from her.